game week and you're ready to strap things on here on Sunday?
Yeah, it's getting there. We've talked about with the team a little bit. Started the week off by saying, hey, it's game week. They're pretty excited about that. And we're definitely ready to knock heads with somebody else.
About preparation-wise, how do you feel where you guys are heading into this game with Army that's already played, 2 games?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that our inter-squad scrimmage with officials last week really helped us. To have stripes out there, and we had the scoreboard up and shot clock. So, and we definitely got better as the scrimmage went on. So it's I don't think it's quite the same as going against somebody else, but it was good. It was good to play with officials and the rules.
Next, we'll go to Andrew Crane.
John, you mentioned the inter-squad scrimmage last weekend. Any players really stand out to you in that, those limited minutes they had out there beyond kind of like, the traditional starters, first midfield line? Any kind of guys surprise you at how well they played?
I think Lucas Quinn is really kind of stepped up his game this spring from in the past. The guys, the starters did well. I think Chase Scanlon, had 6 goals in the scrimmage. So he's not a new guy. I think the goalies all performed well. I think particularly, I think Drake was good. Porter, Shahi Ketchatorian was good. Harrison Thompson was good. I think someone that, was there for the scrimmage said, geez, that's probably as good a 3 or 4 goalies as anybody's got in the country. And so their performance was good. And it wasn't just not shooting well. It was they made good saves.
And then just lineup question. Any guys kind of banged up or out heading into Sunday or just, kind of as practice winds down?
No, I think we're going to, taper off for the rest of the week here physically, just because it is a game week, and Army traditionally could be a physical game. So that, I think we're a little sore all over the field, but I think that'll, if we taper off the rest of the week, I think that'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Lindsey Kramer.
Hey, Coach. Let's start with close defense. So can you tell us who's going to be your starting 3 close defensemen, please?
Well, that's a good question. I think, Kennedy will use him as needed. I'm going to anticipate, I haven't looked too far ahead, at least the first 2 games, with the players that they have, especially Mitch Turn and Moore for Virginia. I think that we need, him down there a little bit more than up top, although, up top he's obviously that threat offensively too. But that's my guess right now for the next couple of weeks. And then, DiPietro was back from last year as a starter. Murphy, some of the other guys have stepped up. And I think that would be your starters to start with.
And then you mentioned a couple times, that it's kind of beyond your control when you start, the factors that went into the late starting. But you do start against a very physical Army team, which always plays you tough. You can practice and drill and scrimmage all you want. There's just a certain limit to actually being ready and knocking heads, as you say. Could you kind of go over again where you think your team is, what you say to them about just jumping in late and where you think you are as far as being able to hit the ground running?
Yeah, I think the end of last week we really wanted to get away from the turnovers. I think certain teams, and I think Army, I think they would like to control the tempo. And, not they won't have early offense, but I think that they would rather work the ball, keep it at their end a little bit more offensively and be patient with it. I don't think they will fast break if they can, going from defense to offense. But I think once they get it down there, they want to get a feel for the other team's defense. And they haven't been great in the face-off, so they need to take advantage of their possessions, and they need to they need to rest their defense when the ball's at their end offensively, is my opinion. And even though they're obviously in great shape. So I'm kind of expecting that tempo. If you turn around, you have a lot of turnovers, then that's just giving them the ball right back and gives them an opportunity to control the tempo of the game. So we've kind of been harping on that the end of last week and this week.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Lindsay. Next, we'll go to Arrow.
Hey, Coach. Another little lineup note. I was wondering who can we expect to start at LSM and who might get a look there?
That's a good question. We've got a bunch of guys back with, Clary, Barlow, Page. Some of those guys come to mind. They're really, a nice athletic group. They're good off the ground. They're good on the wing, on the face-off. We're trying to give them more and more time. So those are the guys that come to mind.
And then just in terms of like overall preparation, given, I guess, limited practice, I know you guys had the scrimmage last week. Outside of that, has there been any, I guess, changes to how you guys have prepared for the first game?
No, we started earlier this week, talking about some of their personnel, their, what they like to do offensively and defensively. And, we're fortunate we have a fairly good-sized roster so that we can we have good scout groups. So we have a group that will run the Army offense and a group that will run the Army defense. And we've already touched base on their clearing and their rides and how we're going to, clear against their ride and ride against their clear. So, we've got a nice head start on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Jaron May.
Hey, Coach. Two big rule changes for this upcoming year with the goal mouth and the new face-off rules. First off, how do you see those rules impacting lacrosse and the sport in a general sense this season?
Yeah, well, that's another good question. I don't think we know till we get going with it. I mean, we've done it in our scrimmages, and frankly, the face-off hasn't looked a heck of a lot different. I think that what could happen in some of these games is that your face-off wings could be more important because, if the ball comes out, if it comes out far, away from the face-off guys, and usually the wings are the ones to get after it. So your athleticism, your ground balls, your stick work, your ability to read where the ball comes out is going to be important.
You answered my follow-up.
Well, the goal mouth too. I think that my only concern there is if you land in that arc, even after you score, then the goal is supposed to be taken away, right? So I hope it doesn't encourage a defenseman covering an attackman or covering a midfielder maybe on an invert that's close to the goal. It could encourage defensemen pushing offensive players if they go to score, because if they do land in there for whatever reason, then it's no goal. So I think I hope it doesn't encourage too much of, hey, if he's going to score, there's no reason not to push him into that arc, into that cone area. And you worry a little bit about your goalies. If somebody shoves an attackman in there and maybe lands on your goalie's legs. So it's going to be interesting. And I think some teams dive more than others. So it may affect those that do more than those who haven't really focused on that.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Next, we'll go to Tyler Molito.
Hi, Coach. How did it feel for you to lose out on one of your best seasons in recent history due to the pandemic?
Still thinking about it occasionally. It was difficult because I thought, chemistry was really good. We were getting better every week. I think the guys were getting, playing with a lot of confidence. I've talked for, a couple of years before that we, as a staff, decided to go with some younger players that maybe didn't have the game experience, but they were talented, and we wanted to get them out there and under fire as soon as possible in their young careers. And I think we were starting to see that maturity last year, and again, along with the confidence and the chemistry was really good. So disappointing, very disappointing.
And then following up, last year against Army, it was a 9-7 game, close throughout. Anything from last year's game that you can carry over into this week?
Well, it's always been that kind of game, with Army. It's always been, right down to the end, and they're never going to stop playing. So it's not like they look up at the scoreboard and say, "Oh, well, we're down by a lot, so I'm not going to give all my effort." They don't. That's not their mindset. So they're going to play for 60 minutes. In looking at the game from a year ago, I thought their defense played well. Their goalie played well. I think that we had, a few turnovers. I think, like Chase Scanlon didn't really score. I hope I don't think that's going to be the case, this weekend. He's been finishing the ball really well and dodging fairly well. So I'm just hoping that, that we can perform up to our capabilities for this time of year, and that we can knock the rust off in a real hurry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Next, we'll go to Mario.
Coach, with everything's going on, have you been able to talk with maybe Coach Boeheim or Coach Babers or Coach Hillsman of how to kind of navigate a season through COVID that's going on right now?
I haven't. I've heard them talk. Kind of the same thing here in Manley Fieldhouse, where we're not we're not overlapping like we have in the past. I've heard them talk on our. We have head coaches Zooms with the athletic director for updates, and I've kind of heard them talk, and I've heard Quentin talk. But we're just been with a different size team from them. Probably a little closer to football than obviously basketball. But I've heard them talk, and I've tried to gain as much information. I know Brad Pike, our head trainer, he travels with basketball. So I've talked to him a number of times. And it's just kind of get a feel for, protocols and, what if somebody was to hit a positive and then who's affected by that. So we've been really, really strict about either having our helmet on in practice or having a mask on if you don't have your helmet on. We dress in pods, and the pods are kind of divvied up. You want to keep your roommates together, because if one of them were to, hit a positive, then, I think the roommates would immediately be affected. It still might not affect your pod if you've got your mask on or you've got your helmet on, if they're following the protocol. So we've just really, and as a coaching staff, we talk about it, and just kind of play out scenarios, and I think the team's been been good as far as following the protocols.
Thanks, Mario.
Thanks, Coach.
Next, we'll go to Mark Larson.
Hey, Coach. Sorry, I'm in the car. I was sent out on something that went a little bit long. But anyway, I hope you can hear me okay.
I can.
Okay, good.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you? I just wanted to follow up on a previous question about, losing last year in such a great season. And I talked to you a little bit about this last week, about how the expectations are that you'll just pick up where you left off. How difficult is that, all things considered?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's, I'll let you know on Sunday, because there's no really, we don't have a sounding board to try to figure that out. I mean, we got our scrimmage inter squad, but I just I'm hoping that our past experiences and our ability is going to help us. I don't know, have a great answer for that.
A quick follow-up. I'm been around here long enough to remember when Final Fours were kind of a given for you guys. And now it hasn't happened since 2013, obviously, and no title since 2009. You've talked about this in the past, but does it weigh on you after it's been this long? Is it more of a,
Yeah. I just, it's an interesting approach with a team. You definitely don't want to put it on them. You want them to, achieve, for themselves. And everything's, nothing's easy nowadays, and you don't want to place more pressure on players. They got enough as it is with all that's going on in the world right now between, COVID and how they're taking their classes, and socially things are different, on campus. So it's, a lot trying times, and just try to get them to focus on themselves and our next opponent, and not worry about recent history. I'll be the one that has to deal with that.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Mark. We got time for a couple more. We'll go to Roshan next.
Hi, Coach. You kind of touched on the fact that you have your players in pods and you try to keep them, the ones who are roommates, like in the same pod and that kind of thing. Has that been limiting at all in terms of what you guys are able to do?
Oh, yeah. Not so much on the field because, we've been told that if you have your helmet on, you're good. We don't need to separate the team or have them in pods on the field. And then if they didn't have their helmet on, if you want to go over and get a drink of water or, whatever, get your helmet off to cool down for a couple of minutes, you got to have a mask on. So I think the biggest thing is, the locker room is really a place for them to hang and, maybe get something to eat, to socialize, so that obviously helps with, chemistry and camaraderie. And, it's I know for a fact, in the past they get together as a team and, they would do things, they do team building things, whether, the touch football or bowling, or just, going to watch a movie, whatever it was. And now all those things are eliminated. So it's a different animal, that's for sure.
Thanks, Roshan. We'll go to Andrew Crane next for our second to last question.
John, going back to the goalie depth you kind of alluded to after the inter-squad scrimmage, is that something feel like you've had in years past, especially last year? And how important is, that goalie depth considering, for example, Duke made a quick, goalie switch the first game of the season. Do you think you've had this kind of goalie depth before in the past? And what would you kind of attribute the development to?
I'd say more so the last, 4 or 5 years. I mean, even we had, a year or two ago with Willie Clan, as a backup. It was a under 19 USA, player. And so we've had that depth for a few years now. But in the past, nothing, goalies are a really difficult position to recruit. I mean, there's a big jump between watching a goalie play in high school or with the club teams and then actually getting to college. I'm not sure anyone ever really knows. It's, the ball's going a good, consistently 20, 30 miles an hour faster. And that's always been the biggest adjustment, I think, a goalie coming from high school to college is it takes a little bit. These guys shoot the ball hard and, they might be coming from a league that has sent 1, 2, 3 Division I players on to college, and so they've been shooting on guys who don't have the abilities. Maybe once if you're lucky to have one of those guys on your team, maybe during practice or once every other couple of games, where all of a sudden the whole offense is shooting like the best player coming out of their conference or league. So it's a big adjustment. The speed of the ball is different. And I don't think anybody's got a crystal ball that can tell who's going to adjust to that the best till they actually go against it. But either we've guessed lucky or we've done a good job at recruiting.
Thank you.
Thanks. For our final question, we'll go to Jaron May.
Coach, a lot of hype around the ACC this season. Where would you rank this year's ACC compared to other conference years that you have been? Obviously, you've been at the helm of Syracuse for quite a while. So where does this year's ACC rank amongst the other years?
Pretty darn good. I think that, with some of the conferences like the Ivy League not participating this year, I think teams that, might have been good, all of a sudden they've picked up 1 or 2 or 3 transfers. A guy like all of a sudden Sowers goes into the portal and he ends up at Duke. So, all of a sudden they get better. So I think the teams were all very good coming into this year, and I think a few of them gotten better with their transfers. So it's probably as good as it's ever been, I would think.
Thanks.
Yeah.